All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition and its role in cancer care. I'm going to be asking some questions along the way. Please just yell out answers so that I know you guys are still awake and not in a food coma from lunch. So we know that diet alone can't treat cancer, but there are many things that diet can help with. It can help with your side effects. It can help with your energy levels, with creating lean body mass, making sure you have the nutrients that you need to heal and repair and to go through treatment. It can improve your quality of life. It can help make sure that you can maintain your treatment regimen so you don't have to put things on hold because you're putting the right food in your body. And it can also help reduce the risk of cancer diagnoses and other chronic diseases along the way. So there are some considerations that we have during treatment. So whether you are having surgery, radiation, ADT, anything else, there are certain things that we want to keep in mind. So for surgery, we know that we have more nutrient needs because we need to promote healing after you have surgery. The different nutrients that we want to focus on are going to be your protein, zinc, vitamin A. So vitamin A can usually be found in your colorful foods, so your bright red, orange, green foods. Vitamin C, which can be found in a lot of your fruits and vegetables. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that plant-based diet and why it's so important. And then the other thing that can happen with surgery is that your appetite can be really low because you're not feeling great. So you may have to start out with a light diet for your bowel function until it returns. So think about those broths, toast, eggs, applesauce, things that are just really easy to digest. For radiation therapy, we know that nutrition impacts your symptoms. So you may have some rectal urgency or loose stools. So we know in order to help treat that, we can help with modifying your fiber in your diet or your fat in your diet. We're going to talk about that. And probiotics. Does anyone here right now take a probiotic or have ever heard of a probiotic? Yeah. Okay, so it's one of those words we hear all the time, and a lot of people don't really know what it is or what they're talking about. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's talk about fiber first. So we know there are different types of fiber. We have our soluble fiber, which helps slow your digestion, and your insoluble bulking fiber. So this will help with constipation, or if you need to firm up loose stool if you're having issues with diarrhea, okay? So what types of foods are we looking for in each of these categories? Our soluble fiber, so I want you to think of those oats, fruits, so you have your pears, your apples, even your squashes. So we're coming to that season, right? We're in the fall season, so a lot of those squashes are going to be really good to help increase your fiber content. Think of your different types of seeds, so like chia seeds and flax seeds. These are the types of foods that will be found with the soluble fiber. And then insoluble, you'll see some that come back, right? So we have our fruits are still on here, our berries, avocado, which is also our healthy fat, and then our whole grains and our nuts and legumes, okay? So when we talk about a plant-based diet, these are the types of foods that we want to add into our meals. So when it comes to fiber, does anyone know how much fiber you should get in a day, on average? Yell it out if you have any idea. 30 grams? 35 grams? Okay, pretty close. So usually 25 to 35 is the average amount that they recommend that you get in a day when you're looking at a food item. So for example, if you are at the grocery store and you're looking at a container of bread, right, or a bag of bread, how do you know if there's a good amount of fiber in there? How much fiber should be in one slice? That would be fantastic. So at least 3, okay? You want at least 3 grams of fiber in your one serving of a whole grain. That's how you know it's a high fiber item. So that's something that you guys have control over when you're going to the grocery store, making sure that you're looking at those nutrition labels, making sure that you see the words whole on it. So when you look at the ingredient list, you want to make sure that it says whole grain on it, not just wheat. Because if it says just plain wheat, that means that they can just sprinkle some wheat bran in there and it's all white flour besides that, okay? So that's why that word whole is going to be really important. When it comes to nuts and legumes and even your avocado, that's your healthy fat, okay? So if you've heard of omega-3 fatty acids, that's what we're looking for because those are going to be your heart healthy fats. We want to choose those over a lot of our saturated fats, which are the ones that come from animal products, okay? So just making sure that we're making those healthier choices. So when it comes to fat, okay, and even with most cancers, but prostate cancer as well, you want to make sure that you are having a low-fat diet. Some people have heard misconceptions about dairy. Has anyone ever heard, like, don't eat dairy, it's not good for you, it can cause... So it's not really the dairy that's so much the problem, it's the fat content, okay? So using that low-fat option or the fat-free option when it comes to your dairy products is going to be a better choice for you. Avoiding those fast food and greasy foods. I mean, this is just a general, you should already be trying to avoid as much fast food and greasy fried foods as possible, but that's also going to help get that fat content out of your diet. Choosing lean cuts of meat. So if you are having meat or even if you're having dairy, the low-fat options, the lean cuts of meat are going to be a better choice for you. And with your low-fat dairy, the nice thing now is your yogurts, those all come with so many different options. So trying to choose, if you're used to having full-fat dairy products, milk, whatever it happens to be, try to go down and choose a lower-fat option. Okay, so how about those probiotics? So probiotics can be found in some of the foods that we eat normally. So yogurt, Greek yogurt, regular yogurt, kefir. Has anyone ever heard of kefir before? Okay, so that is all going to have probiotics in it. Okay, there are certain strains that I've listed up here that we know are really good probiotics, and they can be found in these types of foods. So you don't necessarily have to go out and get an expensive supplement. You just need to add some of these foods that have it naturally in them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about nutrition research in prostate cancer. So we talked a little bit about fat and why like a low-fat diet is going to be important for you. We know that there's an 8% increased risk for every 5 kilograms, okay, of your body fat. So we need to make sure that we're lowering that body fat content because that will automatically decrease your risk for cancer, okay? The other thing you want to look at is waist circumference. So there's going to be a 2% increased risk for every 10 centimeter increase in your waist circumference, right? So these are things that we can work on through diet and exercise that you have control over. If you are trying to lose weight, right, and you're trying to have that calorie deficit, there's multiple different ways that you can achieve this. So usually the first thing is looking at your portion control, okay? A lot of people, especially in the United States, we have huge, huge portions. If you go to a restaurant, your portion is probably at least 3 portions worth of food that you're getting in front of you. And if you are someone that finishes everything that's on your plate, that's a problem, right? So the first thing we want to look at is making sure that we decrease those portions and that we're choosing the lean protein options and the high fiber options. You also need to set reachable goals, okay? So if your goal is I want to lose 50 pounds, that's not an attainable goal right away, right? How can we make that more attainable? So if you are looking to have a healthy, slow weight loss that you're going to maintain, you want to think more of like a half a pound to 1 pound a week of losing that weight, okay? And you can do that through diet and exercise. And then there's also things outside of nutrition that you need to keep in mind. So stress management. How are you sleeping? Are you getting the amount of sleep that you need every day? Are you moving, right? Are we getting your metabolism going? These are the types of things that you have control over. So we talked a little bit about dairy. There's a lot of misconceptions on should I have it, should I not? It all has to do with moderation. Okay, so there are several studies out there that show that while there may be a small percent increase, right, in cancer per 400 grams of dairy per day, so that's like 2 cups of milk per day, most people aren't having that quantity, right? And if you choose other protein sources. It doesn't have to just be dairy. So besides dairy, can you guys list any other protein sources? Where else do we get protein from? Chicken, nuts, seeds, fish, eggs. Okay, very good. Okay, those are, some of the main categories where we can get our protein. So it doesn't have to just be from dairy. And like we talked about, even more important than the dairy is that you're choosing those lower lean cuts of meat, right? Lower fat dairy or whatever it happens to be, options. Okay, so just something to think about. You want to get your food from the different categories, not everything from one category. Okay, so this is what we talked about, that low-fat dairy products are a really good source of protein, but we want to make sure we're getting protein from all different sources. How about eggs? Has anyone heard that there's an association with eggs and prostate cancer? Okay, there's no association with egg consumption and protein and risk for prostate cancer. So if you're someone who has eliminated all eggs from your diet because you've heard that, you don't need to be concerned with that. Again, it has to do with moderation. So what you want to focus on your own, okay? Plant-based diets. You probably heard about plant-based diets a million times before, but why is it so important? There are different phytochemicals, which are those chemicals found in the plants that can really help inhibit the growth of your prostate cancer cells. So this kind of lists out some of those important food groups. So we have some of your cruciferous vegetables, okay, so that's going to be like your broccoli, your cauliflower, your kale, all of those types of veggies. And then how about garlic? Do we have any garlic lovers in the room? Okay, super healthy. Throw that into your food when you're making it, okay? Garlic, onions, leeks. Has anyone ever tried tofu? Okay, so we have some of your soy products, your tofu, your tempeh, edamame. So if you haven't tried these before, try to incorporate that into some of your meals. Has anyone ever done like a meatless Monday before? Yeah. Okay, so you pick a day of the week and you try to, instead of having a meat as your source of protein, try a plant-based protein instead. Okay, so what does this look like in real life? Okay, so if you are having a breakfast, what can this look like to make it healthy and make sure you're getting foods from all those different food groups and we're keeping it lean? So you can make yourself an egg omelet. You can throw your vegetables in there because we know, does anyone know how many servings of fruits and vegetables you're supposed to get every day? 6 to 8. Okay. The goal is really 10, but most people don't get 10, right, servings. So I would say if you can at least get 5, if you're someone who doesn't like a lot of fruits and vegetables, that's fantastic, okay? Anything above 5, add a bonus. So this is a great way where you can kind of sneak in some of those servings of fruits and vegetables, throw it in your eggs in the morning. Having a piece of fruit, so having some orange slices. And then this shows, has anyone ever had Greek yogurt? Okay, so Greek yogurt is really good source of protein, has your probiotics in it, but you want to choose the 0% fat or 1% fat so that it's the lower fat option. So how about lunch? So we're getting into chili season, right? 'Tis the season. So you can throw so much into your chili, right? That's going to be heart healthy. You can have so many different types of beans and veggies. You can even have lean cuts of meat. So if you want lean ground turkey, you can throw that in there as well. You can have whole grain toast, vegetables on the side. How about dips? Anyone a hummus lover in here? Okay. Right, so your hummus is going to be, that's made from chickpeas, right? So you're going to get some legumes there. So making sure instead of you dipping your carrots into your ranch dressing, maybe trying some hummus instead. And then how about a snack throughout the day, right? So sometimes we need that snack in between meals. So that's where you can try some of your nuts or seeds. You can have a piece of fruit. You really want to make sure with all of these meals, as you can see, that there's a protein source and a healthy carbohydrate source. So our protein source here is going to be our nuts and seeds. Fruit breaks down into natural sugar, so that's going to be your carbohydrate. So it's going to give you both the short-term and the long-term fuel that you need to get to the next meal. Okay, so that's going to be really important in between meals and for your main meals to have both of those sources. And then last but not least, we have our dinner. So for example, if you have a piece of salmon, that's going to have your omega-3 fatty acids, which we know are very healthy and can help reduce your risk of aggressive cancers. Sweet potatoes, so those, we talked about vitamin A and why that's so important with treatment. So that's where you're going to get your vitamin A. And then you can have some roasted broccoli. We talked about the phytochemicals that are really important for us to help fight cancer. So that's where your broccoli or cruciferous veggies, leafy green salads are going to come into play. Okay. Okay. So that's all I've got. Does anyone have any questions about nutrition-related care for prostate cancer? Yeah?
You're talking about maybe not eliminating dairy, but 2 cups is not that much. What are other, besides maybe tofu, which I don't think it's that high in calcium, I mean, what else, what other?
Yeah, so you can have, like your dark leafy greens, you're going to be able to get your calcium from, depending on what your doctor says, how much calcium that you need to get. Sometimes it's going to be hard to get it all through the diet. So that's one of those supplements that a lot of people are put on because, especially if you're limiting your dairy, it can be a little bit more challenging. But you can also find that calcium in some of the nuts and seeds that you have, some of the fruit. Is going to have some of that calcium. It's just a little bit harder to get in quantity. So if you have some of your berries, you're going to get a little bit of calcium in. It's not going to be, again, it's not going to be the same as a cup of milk, right? But you are going to get some in there. So that's where I would talk to your physician and see, you kind of list out the different things that you are eating and see if they think you need to supplement on top of that.
What is it, if there's some association of higher fat dairy or larger amounts of higher fat dairy with prostate cancer, is there any breakdown in terms of like whether that's onset of cancer or metastatic or?
That's a good question. So no, it's really just looking at general risk factors. They have not broken it down like that. They have shown that, the percentage is still pretty low that they're finding for that correlation like we showed in, I'll go back to that slide here. It's a low correlation. That's why we don't want people to get rid of dairy altogether, which a lot of people will do because they'll hear this misconception. It's important. It's a really important protein source. It's more so the fat content that we want to, keep track of and make sure that we're having that lower fat. But the correlation, again, is not with a specific type of cancer. It's not causing cancer, right? It has to do with the progression of cancer. So moderation. That's where moderation is going to come into play.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, over here.
Soybeans, I was reading something where that increases your estrogen.
Yeah, so there's a lot of also misconceptions about soy and hormones and increasing risk of cancer. That is also not accurate, okay? The studies were done on rats, mice, okay, not on humans. So it is okay to eat soy. Again, it all has to do with moderation. So we don't want every protein source in a day to be all soy, but it is absolutely safe for you to have soy in your diet. Yes?
What about if you've been diagnosed with an iron deficiency?
Yes, so how can you increase your iron in your diet? So that's where your dark leafy greens are going to come into play, okay? You can also get iron in your red meats, but again, you just want to, if you're choosing red meat, you want to choose a leaner cut of red meat, okay? That's not going to get rid of your iron if you choose a leaner cut. Beets are a good one, yeah. So you can still get through vegetables, you can get iron content, but it's okay if you're someone who eats meat. I'm not telling you cannot eat it, okay? It's about choosing those leaner cuts so that it's a healthier option. All the way in the back.
Soy milk.
Yes, what about soy milk?
Soy milk, is that good, bad, or?
Yeah, soy milk is a good alternative to regular milk. Some people can digest soy milk better than regular milk. It's going to be one of the alternate milks that still has protein in it. So if you're someone who's tried almond milk or oat milk, there's not very much protein in there, but the soy milk will still have it. So that's perfectly fine to have. All the way in the corner. Can you say that again? Sorry. Sleep requirement? So at least 8 hours of sleep is what you're looking for. That's for your brain health as well, okay? Your body needs that time to rejuvenate, and then when you're healing, that's really, really important. So if sleep is an issue, that's something that you should be speaking with your doctor about as well. Even with exercise, the timing of when you exercise can actually help you sleep better at night. So if you haven't looked into that or you don't really have an exercise routine, that's something that you can talk to Stephen about as well. Yes?
How important is magnesium?
So that's a good question. Magnesium is one of those supplements that I feel like has become very popular recently. There's different reasons that we have magnesium or need magnesium. Some of it has to do with muscle contraction. Some has to do with your GI system. So if anyone's ever been told to go on a magnesium supplement because they're having issues with constipation, that's a very common supplement that is used. It is found in food, but not in large quantities. So that's why a lot of times we have to supplement. So depending on why you're using the magnesium, there are different types that you would choose for that reason. But it's important. It's one of those important vitamins that you need to have in your system. Yes?
As far as lycopene is concerned, tomato,
Yes.
how much do you eat a daily, and does it make a difference if it's raw tomato or cooked?
It does not matter if it's raw or cooked. I do not have an exact milligram of lycopene included in your diet, right? So, but it will not change based off of if it's cooked down or not. And when you're talking about like fruits and vegetables, when you're kind of considering like what is a serving, so if it's a raw fruit or vegetable, like a cup would be considered a serving. If it's a cooked vegetable, you're gonna think like a half a cup. So if you're trying to kind of figure out, I would more so go towards, I want to get those 5 to 10 servings in a day versus the actual quantity of each phytochemical.
Or you mentioned increased weight as a risk factor. Is there any data with GLP-1 agonists and weight loss?
That's a good question. I have not seen current associations with, are you talking about specifically with cancer treatment? And so have you seen anything with that? I have not seen anything with that yet. I bet it's coming, right, because they're becoming very popular. But I have not seen any research yet linking those two, or if there's a recommendation to look into that when you're trying to lose weight for treatment purposes.
Multivitamins, worth taking, a lot of people say that. It's just a waste of money.
Yes, so that's a good question. It depends how your diet is. If you have a well-rounded diet and you're eating your different food groups, so you're getting your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, your lean types of protein, then you probably won't need it as much, okay? Usually, when I'm talking to someone about a multivitamin, it's like an insurance thing, right? Like you have it because you want to give yourself extra coverage, but you shouldn't really need it completely, right? It's just filling in those gaps that may be lacking a little bit in your diet. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients, if it's a multivitamin that says like take 2 a day, if their diet is really well-rounded, I'll have them take 1 a day instead of 2, okay? Because they should be getting the rest of it from their diet. You're gonna absorb those nutrients better through food than you are through a supplement. So it's always best to get it through your food first.
Yeah, some of us have an associate who recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He was pushing a thing called functional medicine.
Yes.
Apparently pioneered the food clinic, and the short version was no dairy, no beef.
So that's the plant-based, right? That's your plant-based diet. That's always kind of something that they push with treatment, especially in functional medicine. You can do a plant-based diet, but you need to just make sure that you're getting your protein from other places, which is sometimes challenging for people depending on your GI system and what you can tolerate. If you're able to have enough soy products, legumes, seeds, things like that to make up what you're not getting through the meat and dairy. Again, more so important to eat in moderation and to have those low-fat options of meat and dairy, okay? To back up what specifically?
Of the plant-based diet.
Oh yes, there's lots of data about plant-based diet when it comes to cancer research, which I can give you a whole program that has to do with plant-based diet and all the research that's been done. But it's one of the biggest things that we have with cancer treatment is plant-based. We focus on that a lot at the Gathering Place. So there's a ton of research that we can share with you. Yeah. That's a good question. So a lot of times you have to combine your calcium supplement with another supplement to help with constipation if that's an issue that you have. So a lot of times they'll have you take magnesium at a different type of day to kind of counteract that constipation. Yeah, that's usually what I've seen is the most common combination. Okay, one more.
What are your thoughts on protein powder and getting protein that way?
Good question. I can do a whole talk on protein powder. There are so many different types of protein powders out there. It has to do with the ingredients that they put in there, what types of preservatives are in there, what other garbage are they kind of putting in as filler. So if you can find a good quality protein powder that doesn't have a lot of those additives in it, I'm okay with that being a supplement or throwing that in a smoothie or throwing it in a soup. If you're trying to increase your protein but maybe can't have as much quantity when it comes to food, that's a good way to get some more protein in. If you're having any issues with your kidneys and you're trying to increase your protein, you need to be careful. So that's where you need to talk to your doctor, because if you increase too much protein at a time, it can affect your kidney function, okay? So you just have to do it in a safe way, and that's why it needs to be in collaboration with your physician. Okay, all right, so I am out of time, okay, but feel free, you guys can ask questions. Feel free to reach out to me through email as well with any additional questions that you guys have about nutrition, okay? Thank you.
Thank you both very much.